Terrifier 3, #1 movie at the box office, Halloween season. Let's talk about it. A brief history on Terrifier, because this movie, well, the character's been around for a little while longer. It debuted in a anthology film series called All Hallows Eve with a different actor as the main icon, Art the Clown. 2016, Terrifier 1 drops. I watched it. I mean, I heard a lot of stuff kind of online, a lot of stuff on different YouTube channels about it, talking about how it was a return to this like practical effects extravaganza, violence, horror. Terrifier 1 is not a great movie. I think it's sitting around 5.6 on IMDb, something like that. And I think that's probably fair. Almost no plot. However, what you have is a very cool horror character in Art the Clown, this creepy black and white kind of mime-esque clown carrying around a bag of violence-inducing tools and contraptions. The movie is essentially people in a location getting brutally slaughtered by the clown in an insanely over-the-top practical effects ways. Terrifier 2 drops 2022, 6 years later. And this is a pretty big jump forward. Semi-major theatrical release makes a chunk of money back. I checked the budget on part 2. Budget on part 2 apparently was like $500,000. It made like 10 or 12 million at the box office. So huge return for the company. Almost 2.5 hours long. The bare bones plot from the first one, we make a few strides in part 2. There's now what appears to be a magic sword that can maybe hurt this thing. A little bit more lore. There's another demonic entity clown, this young girl brought into the picture. Lots of questions. And here we are, 2024, part 3 drops. These are not films of substance and plot. They are, for the most part, well acted, but there's really not a whole lot here to hold on to outside of Art the Clown, who has become, pretty much across the board a horror icon. I mean, people are buying the outfits, dressing up like them online. $18 million opening weekend on a $2.5 million budget. Clearly, Terrifier has found an audience. As I talk through this review, I'm not 100% sure that I'm that audience. I have a lot of respect for what they're doing, and I understand why people are enjoying it. The thing with Terrifier is you are there for the violence, nothing else. Yeah, you could argue there's some cool ideas in there. I don't really think the director's too concerned about where they go so much as moving the story along enough that they can keep coming up with new ways to kill people. This is a film you can tell they sit down and they're like, what crazy stuff is Art going to do to people in this? Incredibly detailed, violent. There's been rumors of people puking in theaters. I literally just had this conversation with a friend who said that they almost vomited the first time they were working their way through Terrifier 3 in theater. So it is real. They are pushing the envelope, and that's why people love it. Horror fans in general love when a film just says screw it and goes all in on an aspect of horror, and gore and violence is a part of it. You've seen that in how some people embraced some of Rob Zombie, especially his earlier work where he was just going right across the line. But this film, let me be very clear. If there's a line, this film is just light years past it. Clearly, everyone involved in this film is having a blast trying to just disgust the audience, and that will not be for everyone. This is one of those films you pop in and your buddy is laughing beside you while someone else in the room is like, oh my God, this is too... That's what this is. That's the horror experience. Some people clapping and cheering, other people like head in their hands saying, I can't look, tell me when it's over. Another interesting note about this film, it's unrated as far as I understand, meaning that the Motion Picture Association of America, the MPAA, didn't actually give a rating to this film, which they couldn't. I mean, the film that they're showing right now would be X-rated for violence. It's past NC-17, at least in my mind. So they actually put this in theater without getting a rating. That's just unbelievable in itself. Then it debuts #1. Just insanity. Well, huge blockbusters are bombing left, right, and center. So why? It's hard to explain unless you're a horror fan, because this is not a great film. I want to be clear. It's Damien Leone, the director. he has found his niche and is all in, and the response from the public is great. So props to him. But there's not much here. There's not a lot of story. You have so many questions by the end of part 3. What these things are, where they've come from, why the girl is there. More importantly, how people that have been mauled, dismembered, possibly set on fire, body parts twisted off, sometimes by hand or with machinery assistance, how they somehow live for minutes and minutes of this abuse while blood is just flying everywhere. There's ways you could explain that. Or maybe they just don't care, right? Like, it's just about the access. It's about pushing the boundary. It's about making the audience uncomfortable. Who cares if somebody has half their head gone and can still blink and mumble noises? There was no medical consultation on this film. There's also a part where someone gets their hands just bashed into bits and then has to wrap their hands around something like 30 seconds later. Anybody who has like broken a finger and tell you that's probably not happening with one finger broken, let alone your hands looking like your grandma's wicker chair exploded. The main actress in these films is pretty good, actually. She's not unenjoyable. Parts of this film, like the second one being almost 2.5 hours, 20 minutes of that film could have been cut pretty easily without it being an issue. I think it would have moved the film along a lot more. Same with part 3. When I say bare bones plots, I mean it's literally how Art the Clown is still alive, not explained. There's a 5-year like hibernation period, not explained. What's her dad have to do with Art, and why does she have a magic sword? Not explained. One of the main characters apparently is killed off screen, which is very odd and kind of threw one part of the film off. I'm like, wait a minute, I just don't understand why they wouldn't show someone dying in this movie. I mean, you could have a 30-second cameo in this movie and you're going to get a 5-minute death scene. You had one line. For each word you spoke, one tool will be used to eviscerate a part of your body. I am happy to see horror back in theater. I'm happy to see horror back on top because I think this will lead to people getting off their butts, cranking out some more Jason, some more Freddy. I think it'll lead maybe to some experimentation. When you have Disney and these huge companies, Legendary, doing these $300-400 million movies that are bombing at the box office, and you have these little tiny films that are finding an audience, they have to be thinking to themselves, why don't we try some of this too? Blumhouse has been laying the groundwork for years, putting 10 to 20 million into a movie that's going to make 180 million worldwide. There is an audience out there for film, for theater, and expressly and especially for horror. There always has been. There's nothing better than being in a theater of people losing their minds. This was a really good time. Saw it with a friend, and we were just shaking our head and saying things like, I can't believe they went there. Oh my God, this person is still alive. Oh, and it's still going. And of course, you walk out talking about which kill you liked, which kill you didn't. If I'm going to nitpick, I'm going to say one thing. I think Art the Clown is cool. I think Art the Clown is some of the stuff, some of my favorite moments in the film are those little idiosyncrasies he does because he doesn't speak. So he's doing these weird mime gestures and things, and it is genuinely funny at points. The main actor that plays him, I think it's David Howard Thornton, is awesome. I mean, it's just like a Robert Englund as a Freddy. I would struggle to imagine anybody else in this role, just having a blast. I think we could have had 1 or 2 less 5-minute kills and given a little bit to the plot. I get there's people right now watching this go, you don't. I do. I get it. That's just my take. Please, I just want my cake and I want to eat it and dip. I just want all the things. And this film is so close to being one of those. But you know what? Each film is getting a little better. Each film is expanding a bit, and not just the kills, not just the elaborate nature of the practical effects. I think the director really wants to get somewhere. He just hasn't quite figured out how. So looking forward to it. They're probably going to make 12 of these things, and I'm there for it. And if it pulls horror back from the depths, like Scream did in the mid to late 90s, and there was that boom of the slasher again, or how some of the horror haunted house stuff exploded with The Conjuring, and all of a sudden that was everywhere. Like, yes, I'm here for it. Let's get horror back to the theater. Let's have new icons back and some old icons remade, and hopefully in a fun way, not in a tragic, why did they do that way. There's a lot as a horror fan to enjoy here. If you like gore, this is what you've been waiting for. If you don't like gore, you are not going to enjoy this movie. I want to take a moment to shout out Art the Clown. The gentleman that plays him, could not pick that guy out of a lineup. With how the makeup works on him, I had in my mind very clearly how he would look. And when I saw a picture of him without the makeup, I mean, it's ridiculous. So props to him. He owns that character. I'm going to give this on the film scale a 6 out of 10. I would have probably gone lower, honestly, but it's not a badly made film at all. Sound, acting, it's a 2-hour film that probably an hour and 10 minutes of is violence, but it's not badly made. So 6, horror movie scale, given what it's going for, I think it hits it. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think that's pretty fair. It's not a scary movie, and it's not a really horror comedy. This is literally, I don't want to say almost its own thing, because Saw kind of birthed the term torture porn. Maybe this is gore porn. I don't know, but people are loving it, and I look forward to see what this brings into the next year or so of the horror theater going experience. Looking forward to it. Like, subscribe. Hopefully you enjoy these videos. I enjoy making them, and if you've seen Terrifier and survived, let me know. Have a great Halloween season, folks.